Hi everyone, welcome back to the Hideaway. Hope you're all okay. In this video we're cracking on with another tool restoration. Today we're restoring a vintage hammer. This is part of my series of tool restorations that I've been doing over the past few months. I'll leave a link to the playlist in the description. So let's get going. Taking a look at the hammer, their head wasn't in too bad a shape. It's not perfect, but I've seen a lot worse. But the handle definitely needed some attention. It's been well used. But let's dismantle it first to see what we're really dealing with. This is going to be the shortest dismantling segment I think I've ever done. My voiceover may actually take longer than the time it takes to dismantle this thing. Boom. There, it was done. With the head off, the first step, getting rid of the rust. There wasn't loads, but enough to warrant a soak in some evaporust for 24 hours to break down the worst of it. After a good soak overnight and a quick wipe over, I took it over to the wire wheel to remove any spots the evaporust didn't get. There were some pitted areas, but overall it was in good shape. For the eye of the head, I used some wire wheel bits on the rotary tool. I then gave it a good sand, working through grits 120, 240 and 320. I used both the disc sander and the sanding attachment on the bench grinder. I just had a bit more manoeuvrability on the bench grinder attachment. For some of the more awkward spots, I use sanding bits on the rotary tool. And also some hand sanding. And then a good polish on the sisal wheel and loose leaf polishing wheel to give it a really nice shine before I moved on to the handle. Okay, so I'm going to make a new handle. The original has been really well used, but it is a bit battered, and the head doesn't fit properly anymore. So I think making a new one is the best course of action here. I wanted to use hickory, but I couldn't source any, so I'm going to use some ash, which I think is the next best thing. It does need to be trimmed down a little bit. I'll do that on the table saw. And I use the old handle to create this little template that I've got here, and I'll mark that out on here in a minute, and then go and cut it down, rough cut on the bandsaw. And then once I've done that, I'll start to shape it. I'll consider using spoke shaves, rasps, and other sanding techniques just to get the shape of the handle the way that I want it. So first things first, I'll just mark this up, and then I'll go and cut it out on the bandsaw. As I alluded to earlier, I used this spoke shave to help contour the handle. As you can see, this spoke shave makes a bit of a mess. And then I use the bout sander to round over the bottom. I chiseled out the bulk on the top part of the handle to accommodate the eye of the head. And I use rasps to reduce it down to get a decent fit. Then to finish, I use this contour sanding grip with a 240 grit to smooth it out. I needed to make a new wedge for the top of the handle, so it was nice and secure. I'm using some scrap sapele I had lying around for this. I quickly cut it down on the bandsaw and sanded it down to the right shape. About 1/2 mil at the tapered end and about 4 mil at the top. I then cut the slot for the wedge. and did a dry fit. Then it was time to put the head back on and secure the wedge in place, and then the worst happened. So what you didn't see off camera was I turned it over to give it a bit of force from underneath, and as I was hammering it in, the wedge had snapped off. It is pretty solid, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 or 2 of these little metal wedges and try and get them in kind of at 45 degrees in the top. I'll wait for the glue to dry first and then see how we go with these wedges. So here you'll see 3 really sloppy mistakes in a short space of time. First, as you can see in this shot, I already put the first metal wedge in, but I did so before sanding down the excess top of the handle. Secondly, I sanded it down with the first metal wedge in place, but the new sanding discs I have are rubbish and I friction burned the wood. Thirdly, the second wedge went in all skew and slightly split the top of the handle. So, not happy. I'm really annoyed at myself for not being more careful. I wanted to mention it because things don't always go to plan and mistakes are made. I didn't want to try and edit it out. Once I'd come to terms with my mistakes, I sanded some of the burnt areas down on the top of the handle, to not very good effect, might I add. I applied a few coats of boiled linseed oil on the handle, and then gave the head a quick buff up with a lint-free cloth. And there we have it. From an old, neglected piece lying in the bottom of an old tool bag to a restored, functional workshop tool. Despite the frustrating wedging mistake toward the end, it's been another fun and educational tool restoration. Even though I made some errors, it still looks pretty good, and the wedges did their job. It's nice and solid, and it works as good as new. Anyway, I really hope you've enjoyed it. Please let me know what you think in the comments and give that like button a click. And please subscribe if you haven't done already. It's free and it really helps the channel. I'll leave it there for now. I'm just going to go and bang in a few more nails with this thing, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.